Hey team, welcome back to the show. Today is Coach Andrea and I. We're going to be digging into a whole photo shoot prep series. This is something I've got a ton of questions from people about lately. I don't know if more of our clients have been doing photo shoots. I think they have, but I've
hmm
gotten a lot more questions about photo shoots lately, like, hey, why do that? How do we get there, etc. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a series on this. But since you are personally starting your own photo shoot prep. You just recently started it. I thought it would be a really good kind of intro to the topic around like, hey, why might we do this? Who's a good fit for it, etc. But before we get into that, let's actually skip the updates unless there's anything exciting going on in your life outside of this, which I don't think is the case normally for either of us. I
Yeah,
feel like
not
this
really.
really
There's like some
okay.
minor changes with my programming, but I feel like we'll kind of almost get into part of
Yeah,
it.
that's almost the topic here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you listen to this podcast exclusively for Andrea's life updates, I'm sorry to let you down. But let's go ahead and get into it. So again, your photo shoot prep, which can be really fun, like rewarding thing to experience and work through. It's one of my favorite processes to take clients through. I think I could probably say the same for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's talk through this photo shoot prep that you're doing. First, why do a photo shoot?
So with a photo shoot, to me, it is not as you're not as committed or invested, I guess, financially and just like as far as how much you're digging as doing a show. But because that can be a big undertaking, like if that's the first thing that you're ever doing or getting ready for is a big goal, there's a lot of financial commitment. You're really digging really hard. And so this is sort of a halfway between, or maybe not halfway, but somewhere in between, just sort of like a lifestyle cut and getting ready for like a bikini show or physique show in some way. So it's a little bit lower entry point than jumping all the way into that. Which is what a lot of my clients kind of bring up with like, I don't know if I'm ready to do a show, but it's something that I've kind of thought about in the back of my head. So what about scheduling a photo shoot? So I really like it for that, but it also is, even though you're not getting quite as lean for a photo shoot, it is still a challenge mentally and physically. You're still pushing yourself really hard. In most cases, most people are wanting to get pretty lean. I'm wanting to get pretty lean for this. And so you do have to dig. And you do dig a lot more than just like I want to get lean for a beach trip. There's also like the whole peaking aspect to it, which is just really fun. Like you're for this one day or this one like hour time block, you're doing all of the things that you can with your training and your diet and your water and all of that to look your best on that hour. So it's a mental and physical challenge just getting to that point. But then also for me, I want to inspire my clients. Like one of the things that I really love doing with clients is taking them through a photo shoot prep. So if I've never done that myself, nobody's going to be trusting me to do that. They're also like they don't have me to look at as like inspiration or like an example in that way. So that's why I want to do it. And then also I have the longer term goal right now of doing a show. And if I am getting pretty lean for this photo shoot, then it's going to allow me to see, okay, with all the body fat strips down, now where do I need to add muscle to get to that goal that's ahead of me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well put. So really, for most people, it's you're pushing for something higher, like higher aspirations than you ever have before. You're pushing your physique further than you ever have before. You're getting leaner than you have before. But it's not taking to the level of a bodybuilding competition where, yes, as you said, there's a huge financial investment. Maybe
Mhm.
like doing this in front of hundreds of people, again, a whole audience is your thing. Maybe you don't want to learn the posing side of things, right? And maybe you don't want to push to get that lean to where it is like such an unhealthy thing we have to recover from. So in that instance, it's again kind of a good, hey, we have a date on a calendar. We have a very clear goal to push for, where I'm going to be on camera on this date. Like I pay for it. So it's a really good accountability from that front. But as you said as well, I think especially for like coaches in the audience, it is a really good way. Like if you've never gotten extremely lean yourself, a lot of your clients want fat loss, right? So you kind of taking things to another level that you never had before allows you to coach those people so much better. It allows you to coach people from a place of experience. And it's almost kind of like if you work with like a lot of lifestyle clients, they might not want to get as lean as you get for the photo shoot, but it's almost like a magnified version of what they're going to be experiencing, right? So when they're talking about like, I had to deal, I'm hungry, like how do I deal with this? You've gone through that to a much larger degree, and you can relate to and coach them through that so much better, and really helps you understand the things like how do we use refeeds, how do we manipulate training, like all these like stress mitigation tactics and still get there. I do think it's just such a good learning experience as well. Okay, so
Mhm.
talk me through what's the goal physique like from where you're at currently. What are the changes you want to see the day of your photo shoot?
Well, the building aspect is done. So I probably won't be adding too much more muscle between now and the photo shoot. Um, so through that build phase, I focused on mostly lower body, building up my entire lower body. I didn't have anything that was like more prioritized over the rest. So glutes, quads, hamstrings were all a big priority. And so now the goal is to maintain that and just get really lean. So I want to get leaner than I was last time for my first photo shoot. I want to be somewhere within kind of striking distance of like a show level of lean and see, like I said before, like see what I need to do to get to the goal of competition. And then I don't even know if like mine are like hidden underneath the muscle, but I've never had a bicep vein. And I just think that that looks like the marker
Never.
of no, never, not
Hmm.
even in the middle of a workout.
It's a big part
I
of
like,
life.
I know that's like to me, whenever I look at somebody, that is like, okay, they've gotten very lean whenever you can see their bicep vein coming through. And I just like, even in my photo shoot before, yeah, I can't see yours right now.
I can't either. That's why it was there earlier.
Um, so, maybe I just need to get like super, super lean to be able to see mine, but that's part of my goal. Just like, if truly, if I'm way leaner than I was before and I still can't see it, I just don't know that mine are there.
Yeah. Then it might be a matter of building your biceps a bit more, push that closer to the scanner. I don't know. We'll see. But you kind of reference, okay, I want to compare where I was relative to my last photo shoot and gauge what my progress is like. So let's talk through that. Again, you did a photo shoot way back. Was it 2020?
I think it was 2021.
Okay. So you were like 37.
Yeah, I'm in my mid 60s now.
That's great math. No, so you would have actually been like what, 33, 34?
Yeah, something like that, 32 or 3.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, you got a great result for that, right? And again, it will be really cool to compare where you're at now versus last time you were there. So talk us through what have your phases, these different like building phases, the health phases, et cetera, looked like in the time between that last shoot and this one?
Yeah, so immediately after the photo shoot, I started my reverse diet, started bringing my calories back up, and I wasn't even at like 1800 calories yet, and I had just gained quite a bit, and my adherence was good. Like I don't know if it wasn't perfect by any means, but for how well I was adhering to the diet, it just wasn't adding up with how quickly I was gaining back, and also like not gaining muscle that quickly. So I knew that there was something going on there. I knew that something internally wasn't quite right. And so I would do a health phase with my coach at the time. And so I spent a year eating in a surplus, just focused on getting my internal health and hormones back to a good place. So we had lab work. My thyroid was low. All my sex hormones were low. My gut, great place. So we spent quite a bit of time focusing those things and getting that into a better place. And that kind of set the foundation for me to be able to make progress going forward. So I was not making physique progress during that time. Um, I gained 20 pounds and it wasn't a good 20 pounds. It was just mostly body fat. And that was just part of the process of eating enough food to support all the other things that I needed to happen. Um, so, but, and that sounds like really not a thing that anybody would ever want to do from the outside, but I wasn't going to be making good physique progress until I was willing to do that. So I could keep dieting and keep pushing to try and gain muscle, but it just wasn't going to happen at any more than a snail's pace until I spent that time building the foundation. So did that, went into a fat loss phase afterward, lost that 20 pounds that I gained through the health phase. Um, I got to actually the same body weight as I was at my photo shoot. I was pretty
Mhm.
similar in terms of body comp too, because again, like I hadn't really gained any muscle during this
Right.
time. Um, so lost that 20 pounds. Then after that fat loss phase, went into a build phase. And I've through this build phase gained 20 pounds again. But it's way different. The body
Yeah.
composition is far different. My waist is smaller by a lot than it was during that health phase because my gut health is in such a much better place. Um, and I've gained quite a bit of lean mass through that time. So that was about a year long, slightly over, and now I'm going into the fat loss phase leading into this photo shoot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, you can tell on your physique you have built so much muscle. It's really cool to see. And that health phase was, as you said, it was a year where, hey, really didn't make much progress. I definitely didn't lose fat during that time. I didn't build much muscle during that time, but we were focusing on improving health. And ultimately, if you wouldn't have focused on that, you wouldn't have set the stage for more progress, like all the progress you made since. But of course, like that, I think that was a huge part of this journey. So it'd be really cool to see again. Like this building phase has been so productive for you. I can tell you built so much muscle, and that is a huge part of why. Um, so again, it sounds like really you're feeling like the muscles you built in the time between is going to give us a much different result than last time you did your photo shoot, correct?
Yeah, and also just being in a better place internal health wise. That makes such a huge difference. I anticipate the fat loss phase going probably smoother than the first one did. Because I've like my most recent labs, they look way better than my previous ones before going into the health phase. Um, they're so when your gut health is in a better place and your hormones are in a better place, you're going to maintain more muscle mass as you diet
Hmm.
down, and fat loss tends to go smoother. I was down to 60 carbs a day leading up to
Hmm.
that last one, which I might not have to push that hard going into this. I might, but it was still a grind, even
Yeah,
with as hard as I had been pushing, and it was quite a long timeline. So I anticipate just even the that I've gained aside, I think that just being healthier, there's going to be a better look due to that.
healthy body's a responsive body, they say.
Exactly.
I know that a lot of your clients have done or are currently doing a photo shoot. So talk us through like why do you think this is a good or inspiring goal for people to push for?
Yeah, so I think whenever you have that end goal, so you like you said, there's a date on the on the calendar. You're gonna have a camera on you. You've paid for it. That gives you such like higher gear to push than if it's just like, yeah, I just want to get leaner. Like it levels up the commitment because you have to stay committed during that time or else you're just not going to like the result that you have paid for.
Yeah, it makes the
So
goal a lot more specific. Hey, by X time, like this is the goal physique I want it in this time frame. It just makes it so much more specific, which I think is very helpful. I think a lot of
yeah.
people set goals that are way too vague. Like you said, I just want to kind of get leaner, but by when? How like what does leaner look like? I think that's
Mhm.
quantifying that is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also, like, if you have that bigger thing that you're pushing for, or any bigger goal in general, or a deadline in general, it gives you a reason to stay on plan whenever you don't want to. So you can always find reasons that you want to go off your plan. Like on a weekly basis, you could find something. There's a birthday party or a day or a weekend away or whatever the case may be. There's always some reason why you could justify that. And with just sort of like a lifestyle cut, it's kind of like fine. Like, you just might extend the timeline out a little bit, which isn't always great either. Or you just lose a little bit less than you would have otherwise. But if you have a deadline and something that you are striving for, then it gives you a reason to stay on plan whenever you otherwise might not have. And then
Yeah.
also, it gives you something tangible back. So, if you get shredded, but there's no one there with a camera to prove it, did it even happen?
No, didn't.
Exactly. And then if you're a coach too, having those pictures is just really good for marketing, because as much as it might not, it maybe shouldn't be this way, if you get a good result with your physique, people take that as you can help them do the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think like someone being jacked or ripped makes them a good coach, but it matters. People look at your physique despite what like you hear or like there's, again, it doesn't make a good coach, but you don't have to be ripped all the time, but you probably should have taken your physique to a high level. And it's not that, again, you don't have to be ripped year round, but you should probably, like, if you coach fat loss, you probably should push there at least once.
Mhm.
And again, people do notice that. People do pay attention to those things, whether we like to admit that or not.
Yeah.
Um,
And they just like
so
kind of following along with it too.
yeah, that's like if I was, I mean, our business really started to grow so much when I was going through my first photo shoot prep, documenting that. I got so much better as a coach during that time, but also just like that's what if I was starting over, like from scratch, that's what I would do. I would, especially if I had never done anything like that before, I would like hire a coach, set a date on the calendar to do a photo shoot, get their timeline as far as what they thought was like realistic for this goal first, get very clear on that, document a ton of my process, talk about what I was doing, why I was doing it. And I honestly think like, especially if you don't have a lot of clients, that's like such a good way to start. Okay. How did going kind of relevant to this, how did going through your own first photo shoot help you grow as a coach?
Well, like we've been talking about, it's hard to take a client somewhere that you've never been yourself. And so if you haven't been that lean, then it's a difficult thing. Like, so as an example, my client Patricia wanted to get ready for a show, and I was like, I can't do that. I've not done it myself. Now, we ended up, like just told her up front, this isn't something that I do normally, and we have made it happen. But if you haven't
She
pushed
got her pro
yourself,
card, so it worked out, but
it worked out okay for
don't
us.
use this
But
example. It won't
do
know.
not use that as an example. But just in general, like I want to be able to have done something if I'm going to ask my clients to do it. So if I am, or not even ask them to do it, but just like know what they're feeling. Like if I haven't taken a set to failure, how can I push my client there and not know like what sensations they're feeling whenever they are stopping short, and like why they might be doing that? Or if I haven't experienced the discomfort of getting lean, it's going to be difficult to relate to somebody and help coach them through that and take them, like settle them down with why they're feeling so hungry or why they're feeling more tired or whatever the case may be. So doing that, doing the thing is going to
Mhm.
help me push my clients to that level as well. And then with kind of along those same lines, you're probably just not going to hire a coach that also hasn't done the thing that you're wanting to do. Like if I'm going to compete, I probably wouldn't hire somebody that hasn't done that themselves, or at very least hasn't taken many other people through that exact same thing and gotten a good result.
Yeah.
So I one of my favorite things is coaching people through photo shoot preps. I've done the one prior myself, but I want to continue to have more and more experience with that, because that is the most fun process for me to coach. So I want to make sure that I've had that multiple times experience that.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. When you're not coaching from a place of experience, coaching is so much harder and success is so much less likely. Again, like if you're someone who's already like it's always been easy for you to stay lean. It's gonna be really hard to even like coach someone through fat loss, or like you've never gone through a building phase yourself. It's really hard to know like how do we gauge success here. Even you can like read, you can listen to podcasts, you can read Instagram posts, but there's such a big difference between like having gone through it yourself, been coached through it, and experiencing that versus like, hey, hypothetically, like because there's so many situations that come up where it's like, oh, I haven't listened to a podcast about this yet. Like, what do I do? You know, I really personally struggle with a coach or struggle as a coach until I was able to really coach from a place of experience. What made you decide you were ready for this kind of photo shoot prep? Because I think that's important. Like, how do we determine if someone's a good candidate for this or not?
Well, I spent plenty of time not dieting. That's really the biggest thing is you just have to have time away from dieting if you're going to push yourself to a pretty lean state. So that was the biggest one. I also didn't want to go into this thinking I might have the exact same result as I did the last time. Like that would be just such a bummer to like 4 years later, just look the exact same. So spending time in those other phases just has given me the confidence that I've changed my body enough that I'll have improved. I've also spent enough time away from dieting that my relationship with food is quite a bit better, which I really think that that's like the most beneficial thing that you can do for your relationship with food is just spend enough time
For
fueling your
sure.
body. Yeah. So that your brain can settle around food. Because if you're always either mentally or physically restricting yourself, then there's no way for that relationship to heal and improve. So having spent as much time away from dieting as I have, um, I just anticipate, and so far this has been true, that being in a deficit is going to be quite a bit, I don't want to say easier. Physically, it's the same. Like I still am hungry, but mentally, it's so much easier so far because I have spent all that time away from dieting. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, that makes complete sense. I agree. I mean, even personally, what I think of like the photo shoot prep my most recent photo shoot prep I did with Brandon. Um, After that, I thought about food a lot. There was a lot of like, I managed it well, but it was still like, can I save up my calories so I can make sure I can work this in, right? Or like, I want to make sure that I can like go out and have this weekend. I have room for this. And it's funny how much just more and more time not dieting at maintenance or in like a slight surplus and just fueling yourself well, you just don't get as preoccupied with those things. It's no, had plenty of good food. There's no scarcity of food, and it's just not as much something that's on your mind. And I do feel like yes, your relationship with it does really improve so much. Um, Anything else you would say you're looking for in a client outside of what you already mentioned with yourself to determine if they would be a good candidate for this photo shoot process?
So a lot of the similar things that I mentioned for myself. So having been away from a diet for a considerable amount of time, have a decent amount of muscle mass already because that when you're pushing to get pretty lean, that makes a really big difference in how that goes. If you don't have much muscle or you haven't spent the time away from a diet training for building muscle, then one, you might be kind of disappointed whenever you diet down with the physique that you have. But then two, also the process of the fat loss phase is just so much harder and more grindy. So spending time out of a deficit is a big one. But the mental fortitude to push to the point of getting lean is a big one. So I like to go through most of the time, like to go through fat loss phases with clients before something like this, just
Yeah,
to see. what is their mental fortitude like going through a deficit? What are their habits like? What is what is their adherence like whenever they start to get hungry? And you can tell quite a bit of that through a build phase even, but it's just amplified more whenever you're in a
Yeah.
deficit because you add the complication of hunger, which is just uncomfortable on top of it. And then like, man, if you're not hitting your macros consistently in a maintenance or build phase, it's probably not a good sign for getting into a deficit. So that needs to be really consistent before we start pushing for something like a photo shoot. And then training hard and training consistently is the last one because again, we want to make sure that we have a good base of muscle mass. And also, that's just sort of like a foundational habit with this kind of thing. So, if we don't have all of those foundational habits nailed down, adding that next layer of intensity and difficulty just kind of like you're on a shaky foundation already.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say if you're not doing things well when we're not in the fat loss phase, it's not going to go well. Either we'll struggle to be consistent and won't get the result we want for that photo shoot, or we won't have the muscle mass needed to get the desired result. And as you said, that's like having the muscle we need to support the physique you want is such a big part of this. That's most people who come into this process, it's pretty rare that it's, yeah, right away, we're just going to hop into this photo shoot prep. It's typically like I think of like a client who I just started this last week. Shout out to Madison, where she's a coach herself, trying to learn and know where she's coming from. And we like one of our goals long term is to do a photo shoot, but we really identified, hey, we need to build all a good amount of muscle first. So we're spending like we mapped out an entire year of us spending a huge amount of time focusing on fueling her well, training hard, and adding more muscle to her physique. So really making sure that we have adequate muscle to support the physique we want beforehand, which oftentimes comes with time out of the deficit before we're actually ready for that fat loss phase leading into the photo shoot is huge. As we kind of wrap this up, any closing thoughts you want to leave the listener with?
Anybody that's either wanted just another goal to push towards, like maybe you're a coach and a lot of this resonates with you, and maybe you're in that position where you're kind of newer and wanting to use this as a marketing tool, or you just want to be able to coach uh, clients at a higher level, or just learn about yourself through this process. I would definitely book a photo shoot or think about booking a photo shoot, because there's just so much positive that comes from it in my experience and in my opinion. Um, like we talked about, a show is just like a big commitment. And so if you go straight to that, it's just such a big leap. Whereas if you do something like a photo shoot, it can give you a taste of that without the way. Or like you said, if there's just parts of it that you don't really feel like you'd enjoy, it gives you something more exciting. Because having a big goal that's like a little bit scary is so much more exciting than something that's
Oh
completely
yeah.
comfortable to you. And it really can get you much more fired up about the process if you have something that's like pushing you a little bit outside your comfort zone and scares you a little bit.
No, absolutely. Again, like I remember my first one I was so nervous for. I was like terrified to book it. But it was just again like the best experience for me. I fully agree. And again, having someone to guide you through that process, if you're not confident, extremely confident in what you're doing, which if you haven't gone through it, you're probably not, hire someone to guide you through it. You'll take so much out of that. All right. Well, in that case, we will pick up with part two of this series shortly, actually digging more into what the process looks like. If you would like to work with our team, if you'd like to be guided through this process, hit the link in the show notes. Andrew, I know you have a couple roster spots open currently. Hit the link in the show notes to apply to work with the team. If you enjoy the show, do us a huge favor, leave us a 5-star rating or review, and we will catch you guys next time.